Hey, Travis, my friend, how you doing?
Raining out there, I presume.
Man, it's biblical proportions out here. I don't know if God is mad at L.A. I would certainly wouldn't blame him if he was. Um, I'm not getting any indication that I'm supposed to build a big boat or anything, though. So it's just raining like crazy. And when it rains out here, everybody's such a wuss. You know, my friends I love to ride on my friends in Montana because, it's Montana and it's cold and it's ridiculous. But, it's like -10 for 3 weeks in a row and nobody complains. But out here, it rains for 2 days and they don't know what to do. They get on the
Yeah.
freeway and they just start crying right there. And it took me an hour to drive tonight, what I usually drive in about 20 minutes because everybody's an idiot. But it's okay. We need it.
Well, you should see people in my town when we have 1 inch of snow.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, same kind of thing.
It snows like every 10 years here, and when it does, whew. No, we did have a lot of snow earlier this year in January.
Yeah.
It may have been one of our big. It was like 20 inches of snow. It was
Wow.
huge. Like we went nuts, and we shut down for like 3 days.
Wow. I never think of the South as getting snow.
Yeah, we won't see that for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a one in a million moment. The last time we had a snow like that was like 1974. So usually when we get snow, it's an inch.
Yeah.
Melted by noon. So you better enjoy it.
Throw a snowball when you can. Yeah.
Get a snowball. And you better put it in the freezer real quick,
just to prove it was there.
just to prove we had snow. No one will believe you in July. That's for sure. So
Travis, I say, and this is Travis and Ross, and this is Notes On, and we try to do Christ on Purpose. And a couple of weeks ago, I texted you an article that I thought would be fun to talk about. It's on a website called Daily KOS, whatever that is. And I read them a lot without knowing what it is. But the name of the article was "Who is the Suffering Servant?" And it's written by a guy named Mark Ira Kaufman. If you want to look it up, it's an interesting article. But he makes the case that Isaiah 53 is not written about Jesus. And I thought, just to get us started, let me read about 4 paragraphs, and you can let's talk about this because this is important stuff. The key to deciphering any biblical text is to view it in context. Isaiah 53 is actually the 4th of the 4 servant songs. The others are found in Isaiah chapters 42, 49, and 50. Though the servant in 53 is not openly identified, these verses merely referred to my servant. The servant in each of the previous servant songs is plainly and repeatedly identified as Israel, the biblical name of the Jewish people. Beginning with 41, the equating of God's servant with the nation of Israel is made 9 times by Isaiah, and no one other than Israel is identified as the servant. For example, you are my servant, O Israel, in 41. You are my servant, Israel, in 49. The Bible is filled with other references to the Jewish people as God's servant. See Jeremiah 30:10 and a few other references. As such, there is no reason that the servant in Isaiah 53 would suddenly switch and refer to someone other than the Jewish people. So, how do you answer that?
Yeah. Well, this is a perennial debate, and if I can give you greater context.
Yes.
Since the dawning of the church has always seen Isaiah 53 as a messianic prophecy fulfilled in Jesus. Could you maintain that Jesus is the Messiah even if he fulfilled no prophecies? My personal opinion is yes. And here's how I would do it. I would say Jesus claimed to be the Messiah and he rose from the dead, thereby vindicating his claim. So proving that he did not fulfill any prophecies does not prove that he's not the Messiah. However, it would affect all kinds of things, not the least of which would be the idea that the apostles misinterpreted the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So they were bad exegetes. And that therefore speaks to the trustworthiness of New Testament, the New Testament witness to who the Messiah is. It would also speak to the whole approach to the Old Testament that we have. How do you balance out the Old and New Testaments? How do they relate to each other? And there's a lot of theology that the apostles appeal to in Isaiah 53 itself as the basis for our gospel. So our view of the gospel will be greatly affected. So you lose a lot of real estate if you say that Jesus did not literally fulfill Isaiah 53.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the context. Now, to ramp up the points that you've made, the four servant songs, starting in Isaiah 42, clearly state that Israel is the servant. And then we go to 49 and then 50 and then 50. It actually, 53, we commonly just call it Isaiah 53, but that servant song actually starts in Isaiah 52, starting with, bear with me for 1 second, verse 13. So Isaiah 52, 13, and goes all the way to Isaiah 53, 12. And it's the longest of the servant songs. So the question is, who's misinterpreting the text? Now, the common argument is that because it being Isaiah or Isaiah 42 starts off by calling Israel the servant, it's got to be Israel. And so when our Jewish friends read Isaiah 53, they see the suffering that's being portrayed there as a kind of metaphorical or poetic suffering that the Jews have experienced all throughout history. And I never will forget when I was a freshman in college, my reading assignment, I took a course in Judaism, and my reading assignment was from Dennis Prager and Joseph Telushkin's book, The 9 Questions People Ask About Judaism. And I read their section, of course, on Christianity. And I was like, the whole time I'm shaking my head. It's like, I'm not going to give this guy much credit until he deals with the prophecies. Well, lo and behold, Prager and Telushkin, they deal with the prophecies. And they go after Isaiah 7, which gives us the virgin birth. They go after other texts like Psalm 22. But the one they really go after is Isaiah 53. And they give this argument that the Jews are the fulfillment of this text. And I never will forget, I was in the shower a few days later, and I was just reflecting on this. And it dawned on me, I was like, the Holocaust. I mean, the Holocaust. That is a really good example of how the Jews just suffered for, their religion, for the sake of Jehovah. I mean, this was huge for me. So I actually thought long and hard. One of the problems with me is I had fallen in love with a Jewish girl, so that was a tug on my heart too. But I sincerely thought about converting to Judaism. So this is very personal for me.
Okay.
You want me to continue?
Yeah. Well, I have another question, but I'll save it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the claim that the author gave from the essay that you read, that they are all clearly telling us that the servant is Israel. It's not quite true. So what I would like, if people are listening to this, they can pause it and go to the text. I'm reading from the LSB, but you can find this in any translation. It's not hard to see, but I'm in Isaiah 49, and just read along with me and tell me what jumps out. Listen to me, O coastlands, and pay attention, you peoples from afar. Jehovah called me from the womb. From the body of my mother, he made my name to be remembered. He has set my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand, he has concealed me, and he has also set me as a select arrow. He has hidden me in his quiver. He said to me, you are my servant, Israel, in whom I will show forth my beautiful glory. But I said, I have toiled in vain. I have spent my might for nothing in vanity. Yet surely the justice due to me is with Jehovah, and my reward is with my God. Now catch this, verse 5. So now says Jehovah, who formed me from the womb to be his servant, to return Jacob back to him, so that Israel might be gathered to him. For I am glorified in the sight of Jehovah, and my God is my strength.
So Israel is separate from the person being described in what you just read.
That's right. So there it is distinguishing the servant from Jacob and Israel. And so the traditional Christian reading of these texts is to say that God has called Israel to be his servant. Did Israel succeed? No, they fell into sin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a traditionalist, so I see the entire scroll of Isaiah as having been written by the prophet. So I can do this. But you can do this all throughout the text, but over and over and over again, we are told from Isaiah 1 all the way to the end of the book that Israel has fallen into heinous sins. And so I think that the cadence of all of this is set in Isaiah 6, where Isaiah is called as a prophet, and he says, I'm going to go, but woe is me. I'm going to go serve you, Lord, but woe is me, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live amongst a people of unclean lips. That's a paraphrase. So that's Isaiah himself saying, the people that I live amongst are wicked sinners. That's who I live amongst. And so even though God has called Israel to be his servant, Israel itself has failed to be the servant that he has called. And so if you want a parallel, you have a parallel with Adam. Jesus is the second Adam in the sense that God called Adam to be his representative on earth, his anointed one, his prophet, priest, and king. Adam falls. And so Christ comes as the second Adam. I think you can work your way through the New Testament and see that the New Testament is constantly portraying Jesus as not just the second Adam, but the second Israel. He has come to do what Israel could not do. And so you'll notice if you get to Isaiah 50, thus says Jehovah, where is the certificate of divorce by which I have sent your mother away? Or to which of my creditors did I sell you? Behold, you were sold for your iniquities, and for your transgressions your mother was sent away. Why was there no man when I came, when I called? Why was there none to answer? Is my hand so short that it cannot ransom? Or have I no power to deliver? Behold, I dry up the sea with my rebuke. I make the rivers a wilderness. Their fish stink for lack of water and die of thirst. I clothe the heavens with blackness and make sackcloth their covering. Lord Jehovah has given me the tongue of disciples, that I may know how to sustain the weary one with a word. He awakens me morning by morning. He awakens my ear to listen as a disciple. Lord Jehovah has opened my ear, and I did not rebel, nor did I turn back. I gave my back to those who strike me, and my cheeks to those who pluck out the beard. I did not hide my face from dishonor. Even now, Lord Jehovah helps me. Therefore, I am not dishonored. Therefore, I have set my face like flint, and I know that I will not be ashamed. He who vindicates me is near. Who will contend with me? Let us stand up to each other. Who has a judgment against me? Let him approach me. Behold, Lord Jehovah helps me. Who is he who condemns me? Behold, they will all wear out like a garment. The moth will eat them. Who is among you that fears Jehovah, that listens to the voice of his servant, that walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of Jehovah and rely on his God. Behold, all you who kindle a fire, who gird yourselves with firebrands, walk in the light of your fire, and among the brands you have set ablaze, this you will have from my hand. You will lie down in torment. Now, as I read that text, I'm seeing the servant as one who's going to keep the divorce from happening. God is going to put these people away because of their transgressions, and this the servant that's going to call them back.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the context. And so then we get to Isaiah 53. And this is, if I was stuck on a deserted island and I had only one text that I could take, it would be the suffering servant song. It is the entire gospel right here in this text. Isaiah 52, verse 13. Behold, my servant will prosper. He will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Just as many were appalled at you, my people, so his appearance was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. Thus he will sprinkle many nations. Kings will shut their mouths on account of him. For what had not been told them they will see, and what they had not heard they will understand. Who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of the parched ground. He has no stately form or majesty that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and forsaken of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And like one from whom men hid their face, he was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely our griefs he himself bore, and our sorrows he carried. Yet we ourselves esteemed him stricken and smitten of God and afflicted. But he was pierced through for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The chastening of our peace fell upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. All of us like sheep have gone astray. Each of us turned to his own way, but Jehovah has caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that is silent before its shearers, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, for the transgression of my people, striking was due to him. So his grave was assigned with wicked men, and yet he was with a rich man in his death, because he had done no violence, nor was there any deceit in his mouth. But Jehovah was pleased to crush him, putting him to grief. If you would place his soul as a guilt offering, he will see his seed, he will prolong his days, and the good pleasure of Jehovah will succeed in his hand. As a result of the anguish of his soul, he will see light and be satisfied. By his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will justify the many, as he will bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will divide for him a portion with the many, and he will divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul to death and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he himself bore the sin of many and interceded for the transgressors.
Wow. It sure seems like, man, it fits Christ so perfectly. Is it possible, Travis, that, Hugh Ross talks a lot about dual revelations? Could it mean both Israel and Christ?
There are very good scholars who are evangelical who would see a dual fulfillment. One of the texts you could go to press the point is Acts 13. In Acts 13, Paul quotes Isaiah 49 and identifies the apostles with the servant. Now, I personally don't think that that's true. But if I were pressed against the wall, my faith that Jesus fulfilled this would not lapse too much if that were so. But I see this narrowing starting in Isaiah 42 and going and all culminating in the Messiah as the one who's going to fulfill these texts. And so I personally think, and I'm going to give you reasons why in a second, I personally think that Isaiah 53 is fulfilled in Jesus alone, that he alone is the fulfillment of this text. Now, can't call him a friend because I don't know him, but Tovia Singer, who's a very well-respected Jewish apologist and critic of Christianity, has argued that people like you and me, we've lost the point of view of the text. So if you go back to Isaiah 52 and verse 13, when you get to verse 15, he says, he will sprinkle many nations, kings will shut their mouths on account of him. For what had not been told them, they will see, and what they had not heard, they will understand. And then what happens is, starting in Isaiah 53:1, who is speaking, right? Who's speaking the words? And Tovia Singer argues that it's the Gentiles whose mouths have been closed on account of him. The Gentile kings will speak these words about Israel and all that Israel has gone through over the years. Their mouths will be closed, and then they will say, we're here to give you a report of how Israel has suffered in history. Okay. Now, if that is the correct way to read it, then Tovia Singer has a ready answer for you and me when we say, well, look, let's say, for example, in verse 8, where it says, it speaks of him being cut out of the land of the living for the transgression of my people to whom the stroke was due. I mean, what more do you want? Well, the my people was the Gentiles. So what's happening is that the Gentiles are saying Israel was cut out of the land of the living for the transgressions of us, we Gentiles, my people, to whom the stroke was due. So once you get that point of view, you can see how Tovia Singer will leverage that language to argue for his point. I don't think it works. And it doesn't work for several reasons. For example, there's no other place in the book of Isaiah where the phrase my people refers to Gentiles.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's kind of reversing their argument against in the other way.
That's right. So to me, that's a big problem. The other problem with it is that it would assume that the people of God, Israel, don't deserve any sort of punishment. However, over and over throughout Isaiah, the people of Israel are sinners. And God has actually said, you deserve to be cast away from me.
Yeah.
And so our view of redemption makes sense. On the Jewish view, there's no genuine atonement for their sins, especially over the past 2,000 years since they've had no temple. So we have a Messiah that atones for the sins of Israel, but also for the whole world, so that all of us can come to the Messiah and understand that he is our atonement. Now, the other reason I don't buy Tovia Singer's reading is if you go to Isaiah 53, it says, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Who's giving the report? Well, he tells us who gives him the report. Go to Isaiah 52, verse 6. Notice what Isaiah says. He says, therefore, my people shall know my name. Who's he speaking about? My people. Well, in verse 5, he says, so now what do I have here, declares Jehovah, since my people have been taken away for nothing. Those who rule over them howl, and my name is continually blasphemed all day long. Well, who's this people that's been taken away? Well, if you look at the few verses earlier, it's clearly the Jews, the Israel. They've been taken away. So in context, my people refers to Israel. Right? And then he says, how lovely. I'll just reread the verse 6. Therefore, my people shall know my name. Therefore, in that day, I am the one who is speaking. Here I am. Verse 7, how lovely on the mountains are the feet of him who proclaims, and I'll just translate it, gospel, right? Who announces peace and proclaims good news of good things, who announces salvation and says to Zion, your God reigns. The voice of your watchmen, they lift up their voices. They shout joyfully together, for they will see with their own eyes when Jehovah returns to Zion. Well, who are the watchmen? These are the prophets. These are the ones who declare to Israel the truth. So later, when in verse 1, where Isaiah says, Who is to believe our report? To whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He's talking about the prophets. The prophets have proclaimed this salvation to people. The arm of the Lord is saving people. And we are giving the report of that. It gets even better. If you look later in Isaiah 53, you can tell why I love this text so much. In Isaiah 53, he says in verse 2, he, that is the servant, grew up before him, that is God, like a tender shoot and like a root out of the parched ground. And he has no stately form or majesty that we should look upon him. Now, this is really interesting. Those words where he calls the servant a shoot and out of the parched ground, a stump out of the parched ground, goes all the way back to Isaiah 11, where the servant is called he's a twig that springs forth out of the stump of Jesse. The same Hebrew words describing who is clearly the Messiah in Isaiah 11, because this is talking about the reign of the Messiah, right? That messianic text is clearly referring to the Messiah as a shoot, as a twig, right? And here in Isaiah 53, he is the root or the shoot that comes out of the parched ground. And the imagery is clear. The stump of Jesse refers to the fact that the Davidic kingdom is all but gone. It's been cut down, and all that's left is a stump, and you have this twig sprouting out of it. That's the Messiah. He's the righteous branch.
Yeah.
And in Isaiah 53, the imagery is that of parched ground. There's spiritual death here. It's dearth. There's no life. And God has caused this one out of non-life to become living. I don't think it's an allusion to the resurrection, although it could be. I think it's an allusion to the fact that the kingdom of Judah is all but gone. It's spiritually dead. And here comes the Messiah. But it gets better. In Isaiah 52, going back to that, behold, my servant will prosper. He will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. There are only 4 texts in all of Scripture where Isaiah sees a vision where one is high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Every single one, besides this one, every single one, it's Jehovah himself. And so this imagery is either saying that the Messiah is God, or the imagery is saying that the Messiah is so close to God that he is holy and without sin. Now, I know that our Jews are non-Trinitarians, and they're not going to want to say that the Messiah is God, right? But that's coming very close to saying that the Messiah is God.
Yeah, it sure is. Travis, is there any Jewish commentary before Jesus that there must have been about this passage? Does it all say that it's the suffering servant is Israel, or is there any variety in what those commentaries say?
I'm going to break a cardinal rule. I'm going to go off screen for 1 second.
Yeah.
Bear with me.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be cool.
Okay. This book here is entitled The Suffering Servant of Isaiah According to the Jewish Interpreters, written by Samuel R. Driver and Adolf Neubauer. This was written in the early 20th century. They record every single interpretation of Isaiah 53 given by Jews from just before Christ all the way into the modern era.
Okay.
Over and over and over and over again, the Jews are saying this refers to the Messiah.
Wow. So is
in
this
the
a
Middle Ages? Rashi and a few others changed the view and said it's Israel. But even Moses Maimonides said it's about the Messiah.
It's like that 2 powers in heaven argument. Before,
That's right.
Jews were thinking about, there were at least 2 personalities described as Jehovah, as God in the Old Testament. And then all of a sudden Jesus comes along and they say, oh no, never mind, we were wrong about that. So it sounds like they're doing the same thing here.
Yeah. I'm going to give you 2 more anecdotes as we're winding down. I would encourage everybody to listen to the debate between Tovia Singer and Michael Brown. Unfortunately, it's recorded. It's not video. It's not on video, but it's interesting. They make a bet at the very end, and Michael Brown pulls out this book, The Suffering Servant of Isaiah, according to Jewish interpreters. And since that debate, Toby's never wanted to debate him since.
Wow.
Second of all, I want to give an encouragement to my Gentile friends. I'm a Gentile. You're a Gentile. And it may be that the most meaningful verse to me as a Gentile Christian is at the very end of Isaiah 52, where it speaks of the kings and the nations shutting their mouths because what they didn't understand, they will now know. In light of the suffering servant, that is when the Gentiles will understand the ways of the God of Israel. So every single time a Gentile places his faith in Jesus and connects himself to the God of Israel, you're fulfilling that prophecy.
Wow.
And I love that text. And to me, that's one of the killer texts, because who else in history has introduced more people to the God of Israel other than our Lord Jesus?
That's right.
Who? We would be worshiping snakes and sacrificing our children if it weren't for Jesus. So praise God that he is our suffering servant. He is our Emmanuel. He is our Lord Christ.
You know, there's so much in this culture that comes from our Christian faith that people who don't know Christ have no clue how much of the things that they hold dear, even the ones that resist him, the things that they hold dear that come from the Christian faith. And maybe we can do something on that sometime. That would be it's an amazing argument. Travis, we're over time. This has been great. Wow, what amazing content. Thank you. Thank you.
Love you, brother.
Love you, man. See you next week.